The Supreme Court chamber buzzed with an electric tension that you could feel in the air, thick and palpable, as the justices filed in one by one, their black robes swishing against the cold marble floor like ominous whispers of impending judgment. Before moving forward, please subscribe, like, share. Because the vault never sleeps, and neither does justice. It was late October 2025, a time when the leaves outside were turning shades of fiery red and gold, but inside these hallowed halls, the atmosphere was anything but autumnal warmth. It was charged with the heat of political firestorms. The nation was still reeling from the ethics scandals that had rocked the highest court in the land over the past year. Undisclosed gifts from wealthy donors, luxury trips funded by billionaire patrons with stakes in pending cases, and persistent whispers of conflicts of interest that threatened to undermine decades of judicial precedent and public trust. At the very center of this maelstrom stood Justice Amy Coney Barrett ***, her iconic lace collar pristine and starched, her expression a carefully constructed mask of composed authority, honed from years of navigating the treacherous waters of Senate confirmations, high-stakes oral arguments, and relentless media scrutiny. But today she faced a formidable new challenger, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez ***, better known as AOC, the fiery progressive powerhouse from New York who had risen from bartender to congressional superstar, captivating millions with her unfiltered passion and social media savvy. AOC approached the petitioner's lectern with her signature unshakable confidence, her emerald green blazer a bold, defiant statement against the court's somber, neutral tones, a thick, leather-bound folder clutched tightly in her hand like a loaded weapon ready to fire. This wasn't just any routine hearing, it was an emergency session, forced into existence after AOC's bombshell legislation, the Judicial Transparency Act of 2025 which aimed to mandate full financial disclosures from all federal judges, including detailed reports on spousal income, gifts exceeding $500, and any affiliations with advocacy groups. The bill had surged in popularity amid the ongoing SCOTUS ethics probes, riding a wave of public outrage over perceived corruption. But Barrett, presiding over this oversight matter as the senior justice in rotation, was determined to dismantle it piece by piece before it could gain further momentum. Justice Barrett * adjusted her glasses with a deliberate motion, her voice emerging steady and measured, carrying the full weight of her 7 years on the bench, her rapid ascent from Notre Dame law professor to Supreme Court justice, and her unyielding commitment to originalism, the philosophy that interprets the Constitution based on its original meaning. Representative Ocasio-Cortez, this court has graciously granted your petition for this emergency oversight session only because of the extraordinary gravity of your allegations against the judiciary. But let me be crystal clear from the outset, your so-called Judicial Transparency Act is nothing short of an unconstitutional overreach, a blatant attempt to encroach upon the sacred separation of powers enshrined in our founding document. It invades the privacy of judges, politicizes our deliberations, and sets a perilous precedent for congressional interference in the operations of an independent branch of government. You do not get to play overseer to the justices simply because you disagree with our rulings on sensitive issues like abortion, firearms regulation, environmental policy, or any other matter where progressive agendas clash with constitutional limits. The gallery murmured in response, a low hum of agreement rippling from the conservative spectators seated on one side, while quiet outrage simmered among the progressives on the other, their faces tight with frustration. AOC didn't flinch or waver. Instead, she leaned forward into the microphone, her eyes locking onto Barrett's with the piercing intensity that had made her a sensation on platforms like Instagram and TikTok, where her videos routinely racked up millions of views. With all due respect, Justice Barrett, and I do mean respect for the institution you represent, this isn't about politics or personal vendettas. This is about accountability in its purest form. When justices accept lavish vacations and private jet flights from parties who have active cases pending before this very court, when their spouses earn millions in consulting fees from firms actively lobbying on those same issues, the American people, your constituents in a sense, lose faith in the system. My bill doesn't seek to police you or micromanage your decisions. It simply protects the Constitution from the insidious appearance of corruption that erodes public confidence and turns justice into a commodity for the highest bidder. Barrett's lips tightened ever so slightly at the corners, a rare and subtle tell from a justice renowned for her unflappable poise under even the most intense fire, whether from Senate Democrats during her confirmation or from protesters outside the court building. The chamber fell into a profound hush, the kind where you could hear the faint scratch of pens on legal pads and the soft whir of cameras zooming in. She responded with precision, her words chosen like arrows from a quiver. Appearance, that's a conveniently thin veil for what this legislation truly represents. A partisan attack aimed squarely at conservative justices who dare to uphold the original intent of the Constitution against activist reinterpretations. If you possess concrete, verifiable evidence of any misconduct, beyond sensational headlines and unsubstantiated leaks, then present it here and now, in this forum. Otherwise, this session is adjourned, and your bill will be dismissed as the unconstitutional power grab it is. AOC's smile was subtle, a knowing curve of her lips that sent an immediate ripple of anticipation through the room, as if everyone sensed the turning point had arrived. She opened her folder with a deliberate snap, holding up a asterisk 3-page memo for all to see, its edges crisp and official, stamped with the unmistakable seal of Barrett's own chambers, redacted in places but damning in its content. I'm glad you asked that question, Justice, because I came prepared. Exhibit A, this internal memo from one of your former clerks, dated July 2025, just months ago. It details a strategic outline for an upcoming abortion-related case, currently on this court's docket. Strategy that was coordinated directly with your husband's law firm, which represents several anti-abortion advocacy groups that donated over $250,000 to judicial political action committees in the last election cycle alone. Page 2 explicitly mentions tactics for avoiding recusal scrutiny by routing sensitive communications through third-party intermediaries to skirt ethics rules. Page 3, it lists specific recommendations for opinion language that mirrors briefs filed by those same groups. How, Justice Barrett, is that not a glaring conflict of interest that demands full disclosure under any reasonable standard? Gasps echoed off the high ceilings and marble walls like a wave crashing through the chamber. Phones lit up in the press gallery as reporters furiously typed notes and live tweeted the revelation, with one CNN correspondent's post reading, AOC just accused Barrett of spousal conflict. In SCOTUS, the clip was already being clipped and shared, going viral at lightning speed. Barrett's face remained a study in composure, but her hands gripped the edge of the bench just a fraction tighter, her knuckles paling slightly under the strain. Representative, that memo you wave around is privileged attorney work product, protected under long-standing legal doctrines. Its unauthorized release not only violates confidentiality rules, but raises serious ethical questions about you and your sources. This is not admissible evidence. It's a calculated smear designed to inflame public opinion rather than advance justice. But AOC was fully prepared for the counterpunch, her voice rising with the passionate cadence that had won her legions of followers online and in the streets. Privileged or protected from scrutiny asterisk, let's break it down page by page for the record and for the millions watching this livestream. Page 1 outlines the case background, but with notes on, aligning with firm priorities, your husband's firm to be exact. Page 2 discusses firewalls to avoid ethics flags, but those firewalls look more like smoke screens when the firm bills $1.8 million in fees from clients with direct stakes in Dobbs follow-up cases that this court is set to hear. And page 3, it recommends specific phrasing for the opinion that echoes amicus briefs from those clients word for word. The public, the women whose lives are affected by these rulings, deserve to know if family ties are swaying the scales of justice. My bill doesn't invade privacy. It ensures that justice remains blind, not blinded by undisclosed influences. The room erupted in a cacophony of whispers and side conversations, with the bailiff shouting for order as the tension boiled over. Justice Kavanaugh shifted uncomfortably in his seat, his face flushed. Justice Gorsuch whispered urgently to Justice Alito, their heads closed together. Even Chief Justice Roberts leaned forward, his brow furrowed in deep concentration, clearly weighing the implications. Barrett banged her gavel once, twice, 3 times, the sharp cracks cutting through the noise like thunder. Order in the court. Representative Ocasio-Cortez, you are treading on extraordinarily dangerous ground here. Accusing a justice's spouse of impropriety crosses a line from legitimate inquiry into outright personal attack, the kind that undermines the dignity of this institution and invites chaos. AOC didn't back down an inch, her eyes blazing with the fire of conviction that had propelled her from obscurity to national prominence. Personal attack. This is *** public service under a microscope *** justice. Jesse Barrett's firm lobbies aggressively on cases that come before this court, cases you preside over. That's not personal. That's a potential breach of the ethical canons every judge swears to uphold. My bill simply mandates disclosure so we can avoid even the hint of impropriety, the kind that erodes faith in our democracy. If the court has nothing to hide, why fight this tooth and nail? Why not embrace transparency as a strength, not a threat? Barrett paused, a long-waited silence that stretched across the chamber like a taut wire on the verge of snapping, giving the audience time to absorb the gravity of the exchange. She flipped through her own stack of notes with deliberate slowness, her mind undoubtedly racing through a mental Rolodex of precedents, ethics codes, and the potential political fallout that could ripple through Washington and beyond. The livestream chat was exploding in real time, with comments flooding in. AOC is cooking. From progressives, and this is a witch hunt. From conservatives, the divide as sharp as ever. This court, Barrett finally said, her voice level but now laced with a steel edge that revealed the depth of her resolve, will not be intimidated by selective leaks, sensationalism, or hastily drafted legislation that seeks to bend the judiciary to congressional will. But in the interest of upholding the highest standards of public trust and full transparency, I will voluntarily disclose my family's financial records for the past 5 years, including all spousal income and affiliations. Furthermore, the motion for immediate review of your bill is tabled, pending an internal ethics committee assessment to be completed within 30 days. The gallery gasped again, a collective intake of breath that filled the room. AOC's eyes widened in genuine surprise. This was a partial victory, a concession from one of the court's most conservative voices, but Barrett had masterfully flipped the script, transforming an accusation into a demonstration of principled strength. Reporters scrambled to their feet, shouting questions as the session broke into chaos. Progressive activists cheered wildly. Conservatives nodded in solemn approval, seeing it as a deft maneuver to defuse the bomb. As the justices rose to adjourn, Barrett made a move that no one anticipated. She gestured subtly for AOC to approach the bench during the brief recess, a private sidebar away from the prying eyes of the main chamber, but witnessed by a handful of clerks and security personnel who would later leak details to the press. According to those accounts, Barrett spoke in a low, measured tone. Representative, your passion is admirable, and your points are not without merit, but dragging family into this crosses a line. Let's find common ground on real, bipartisan reform that strengthens the court without tearing it down. AOC nodded, her expression respectful but unwavering in its determination. Agreed, Justice Barrett, but true reform starts with full sunlight. This isn't about winning a fight, it's about ensuring justice for all, especially those whose voices are often silenced. The exchange, though brief, was captured on a leaked audio clip that surfaced on X within hours, adding fuel to the fire and turning the hearing into a cultural phenomenon. The fallout from this dramatic showdown was swift, far-reaching, and seismic in its impact on American politics and the judiciary. Within mere hours of the session's end, Barrett's voluntary disclosure hit the wires. It revealed $750. Zero in spousal income from Jesse Barrett's law firm over the past 3 years, all from clients with indirect ties to SCOTUS cases, perfectly legal under current rules, but enough to raise eyebrows and spark editorials in every major newspaper from the New York Times to the Wall Street Journal. AOC's bill, previously languishing in committee, gained *8 new co-sponsors overnight, including moderate Democrats and even one Republican from a swing district who cited the hearing as a wake-up call. The hashtag *Barrett Ethics exploded to #1 worldwide on X within 3 hours, amassing over 2 million mentions and inspiring a flood of memes, think pieces, and even satirical sketches on late-night TV shows like The Daily Show and Saturday Night Live, where impersonators reenacted the Memo drop with exaggerated flair. Progressive outlets like MSNBC ran hour-long specials praising AOC as a modern-day muckraker, while conservative networks like Fox News decried the hearing as partisan theater designed to intimidate the bench. Late-night hosts joked, AOC just turned SCOTUS into a reality TV show, and Barrett's the reluctant star. Barrett, ever the strategist, followed up with a rare op-ed in the Wall Street Journal titled Transparency as Strength, where she defended her decision to disclose. In an era of declining trust, voluntary actions like this build bridges, not walls. But we must guard against legislation that turns oversight into overreach, lest we undermine the independence that defines our republic. The piece went viral, shared by conservatives as a masterclass in grace under pressure, and even earning reluctant praise from some liberal commentators for its candor. AOC, meanwhile, capitalized on the momentum with a series of TikTok videos breaking down the memo page by page, each clip garnering millions of views and inspiring young activists to flood congressional offices with calls for reform. Her approval ratings among independents rose 12 points in polls conducted the following week, solidifying her status as a leader in the progressive wing of the Democratic Party. In an interview on CNN, she reflected, "This hearing wasn't about taking down one justice, it's about lifting up the entire system. When we expose conflicts, we make justice fairer for everyone, from the boardroom to the streets." The hearing's broader impact rippled through the legal world like shockwaves. Within days, 3 other justices, facing similar scrutiny, announced enhanced disclosure policies for their chambers. The Judicial Conference, the policy-making body for federal courts, fast-tracked new guidelines requiring annual reports on spousal affiliations, a direct response to the pressure AOC's bill had amplified. Abortion-related cases across the lower courts saw a 25% increase in stays and recusals, as judges preemptively stepped aside to avoid similar scandals, according to data from judicial watchdogs like Fix the Court and SCOTUS blog. Months later, the Judicial Transparency Act passed the House with bipartisan support, but faced an uphill battle in the Senate, where filibuster threats loomed. Yet the conversation had shifted permanently. Ethics reform was no longer a fringe issue but a mainstream demand, with petitions circulating online garnering over 5 million signatures. AOC was named a runner-up for Time's Person of the Year, credited with humanizing the fight for judicial accountability. Barrett's approval rating held steady among conservatives, but dipped slightly with women voters, according to Gallup polls, as the spousal conflict narrative lingered in the public mind. This wasn't just a courtroom clash, it was a catalyst for change, proving that in the arena of American democracy, one well-timed revelation could ignite a movement. AOC's bold strategy, combining digital savvy with old-school legal prep, showed how a new generation of leaders could challenge entrenched power. Barrett's measured response, blending defense with concession, highlighted the resilience of institutions under fire. In the viral Clapback vault, we don't just report these moments, we dissect them, relive them, and reveal how they reshape our world. This episode underscores a timeless truth. When hidden ties are exposed, even the mightiest must adapt, or risk losing the public's faith entirely. Vault lesson: receipts don't lie, and in the court of public opinion, transparency always wins the case. When conflicts hide in the shadows, bringing them to light isn't an attack, it's a service to justice itself. Subscribe now for the unlocks that keep coming. Like if this episode had you on the edge of your seat, share with a friend who needs to see how real change happens, and comment below, whose side are you on in this epic battle? AOC's push for reform or Barrett's stand for independence? What hidden conflict should we expose next? Because here in the viral Clapback vault, the truth always gets its day in court, and the drama never ends.